Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Nerd Soup. I am Reuben, formerly known as Beau Oliver, joined here today with Aaron, and we are back to talk about The Substance, the new Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley body horror movie. I feel like I just can't call it a horror movie. This is as body horror as a movie gets. And it's a movie that has just released in theaters. We talked about it on one of our previous episodes where Aaron recapped the movies that he watched at TIFF, so he got the privilege to watch this early, and I thought you did a good job teasing it for those who haven't seen it, for me especially, because I kept thinking about your comments about the last 30 minutes. And now it's out, wide release in theaters, or semi-wide. I'm not really sure. And before we get into the review, you guys can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts, and also follow us on social medias at Nerd Soup, at Beau Soup, at Nerd Soup Monkey. And if you want some extra podcasts from us, I don't know, maybe you're sick of us, so you might not want that, but you could pledge to our Patreon if you do. It's $2 for 3 extra podcasts a month, and $5 for 5.
Yay.
Get it while it's hot, because you never know with us. The soup can go real cold. It's real chilly. Aaron, how are you? Are you feeling chilly today?
No, I'm having a bad day. Not even like the Jets, yeah, whatever, fine. I already came to terms with that, but I was just in a brawl with DoorDash, and I need to know if I'm crazy or not, because I think this is the most insane thing that's ever happened to me. I felt like I was being gaslit.
Gaslit by DoorDash? That's tough.
Dude, so like I order my food, Dasher picks it up. It's like 2 blocks away from me, and it just stops the car. And it's just chilling there for like 15 minutes. And I'm like, this is fucking weird. And then it just says, it got rid of that driver and says a new driver is going to pick up your order. But I'm like, that driver it said that driver picked up my order and he just never came. And now a new driver is going to go get a different, the order that's already been picked up. So I contact support, give them the details. They just give me nothing. He's like, I'm contacting this, I'm doing that. Like, I'm contacting the driver. I'm like, okay. I'm like, but like, you understand like why I'm confused is because my order was already picked up and now there's a new person. And then he just goes, I canceled the order. And I'm like, why did you cancel it? It's like, I wanted it, but I was just asking what the driver was going. It's like, I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Use the above steps to receive credits and place a new order from a different restaurant. Because I haven't heard from you in some time, I'm going to close our chat. Feel free to support us again. I answered like that there was 30 seconds in between that. He's like, oh, haven't heard back. And he just ended the chat. And I was like, what? Like, you didn't resolve anything. Then I got another agent, same exact thing. And I'm like, yeah, like
double agent?
2 agents, explained the situation again. And she did the same thing. Like, I'm happy. Okay, I got the credits, but like, it's not the credits anymore. Like, I'm hungry.
No, it's not about the credits. You can't eat credits.
It's the principal. And like, I'm like, have I resolved your concern? I'm like, not really. And she says, since I already explained and resolved your issue, I'll need to end the chat so customers can have an opportunity to speak with support. Thanks for contacting DoorDash. Just left the chat. I'm like, you didn't help me. You didn't explain anything and you just left. So now I'm like pissed and it's personal. I don't care about the refund. Like, I got that. I just want an answer. Like, what the fuck happened? And then this next person said the same exact thing. Like, the prior 2 agents does nothing to explain the situation or acknowledge anything that was wrong and left without an explanation. I got a refund, which is fine, but wasn't offered any explanation to what happened. Chat ended. Never answered me. So now I'm fucking furious. Get another agent. I'm like, this has been one of the worst customer experiences services I've ever had. It's not your fault, but this is insane that I have received no help or answers of any of my questions. I just want to know what happened to my order and why it was canceled and why none of the agents gave me an explanation and just left. And this person finally gave me an explanation. I was like, thank you. No problem.
What was the explanation? They just don't like you?
The items were not available and it was canceled from the merchant's end, which still doesn't make sense why it said that it was already picked up, but that's neither here nor there. I'm very unsatisfied with the answers I received, and I'm fucking hungry because I didn't get my food. And I don't want to be hyperbolic, but this might ruin my week.
Well, now people are going to start blowing up our customer service. They're like, oh, I ordered a substance review, and all of a sudden I got Aaron complaining about DoorDash.
It's a metaphor for the film, if you really think about it.
Yeah, no, I feel like this film is kind of frustrating, where you keep asking for answers, and it just gives you more questions. It cuts out abruptly.
I mean, the first guy saying he just canceled it was absurd.
He big dogged you, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I just went ahead and canceled it for you. I'm like, I didn't want.
No. No, I decided you're not hungry anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, no free ads, but that's why I use Uber Eats.
Literally
But
said,
that
I
is
canceled it. Order from a different restaurant. You don't want this.
customer service just in everything has become terrible. Well, I feel like that puts you in a good energy for this review though, because you're hyped up, you know? So let's get right into it. As I said, body horror movie starring Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, and Dennis Quaid. Can't forget about DQ because he was really good in this. From French director Coralie Fargiat. Fargiat. I hope I'm saying that
Fargio.
correctly. Fargio. Ah,
Nah, I
nice.
just made that up.
Oh man, I thought maybe you took a French course or something like that. Wanted to watch Godard in the original French. Yeah, no, as I said, Aaron already gave his thoughts on this movie. I just watched it recently, so I guess I'll just open up and we'll keep it spoiler free to begin, and then we'll get into some spoilers because there's a lot of fun things to talk about when it comes to a movie like this. But just to give people a tease as to what they should expect, or just how we felt about it overall, a really fun experience. And not very subtle. I think the ideas that they're playing with are right in your face, but I think that's the point because it's more so. It felt like an art exhibit. The sculptures of a mad woman come to life in such a abrasive and at times, this is not a spoiler, grotesque way. The performances from Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, the three of them are all great. Obviously, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley have more to do, but their back and forth, their dynamic, it was fascinating to watch. And it's a movie that, as I said, it's presenting a lot of ideas, a lot of questions. It feels very staged, as in like a Broadway play. And Demi Moore's like the only character who sort of exists in our world, and she's just in this play world where you just don't know how the rules are going to be broken or what the consequences are going to be. It's dealing with an aging actress who takes this drug that allows her to create a better, younger version of herself. But it's just not that simple. It's not so much about how much can you mine from this. You know, the idea of aging actresses has been tackled before in other movies in different ways. But as I said, this is just a visual feast for the sickest minds out there. So anybody who's a fan of body horror, just horror movies in general, I think could have a really good time with this. Because it does get so crazy, I think it will turn some people off, even people who hear about this movie and look forward to it and think, oh, this is something I definitely could vibe with and enjoy. But I've noticed that some people, yeah, even people that I would think would like something like this, just hated it. And that's always fun. It's always fun when you get a movie like this.
I feel like if you're deterred by the last 20, 30 minutes, I think you still have to respect the swing, right? Or
Right.
the creativity or the confidence to pull this off. Because if it did just play out as shown for the conclusion of the film, I think you get a much more widely liked film by audiences. But sometimes it's fun to just take one of those massive swings. And if it works for you, it really works. And if it doesn't, then I think you could still appreciate the effort and still appreciate the first 80% of the movie. It is such a surprising, I guess, is one way to describe it, that it could turn somebody off from the entire thing as a whole. But for me, it worked for me. And I just appreciate that kind of attempt at something. You know, it's like if you're gonna miss, you're gonna swing. Like you're gonna go down swinging. Because if the movie does play out like the way it was, I think people still would be like, "Wow, it was kind of fucked up." You know, it's kind of because there's still a lot there in the beginning. It's not like it just takes this crazy shift into something grotesque. Like you said, a lot of the body horror leading up to the ending was still pretty gruesome. And like you said, with the ideas they're playing with, I think they did a good job of kind of delving into something that, like you said, we've seen before. But I think one of the most fascinating aspects of it was the internal struggle and how you kind of disassociate with your other half. And it's almost like you're two completely different people. The whole remember you're one thing that gets repeated that we see throughout the movie. I enjoyed that aspect of it as well. Like you said, it's just something that I don't know, it definitely worked for me. And I saw it at like midnight, so I was already like pretty tired. By 2:30, when all this shit was going down, I felt like I was dead or in hell or something.
Yeah, no, that is quite the shot to get you back on your feet.
It was a fever dream. And I left the
Yeah.
theater and I was just like, where am I? How do I get home?
Yeah, right. And like you said, with the whole duality of the performances, the leading performances, where you can separate yourself into two. Oh my God, dude, I keep getting a fucking message notification from Reddit. It just won't stop sending me the same notification for the same message. It's so annoying. It's like really distracting me.
I don't know how Reddit does it. Like I never really looked. I didn't look up like even for with Toronto. Like I just keep getting notifications for TIFF Reddit, and it's just like, how do you know that? I tell you what, like a lot of people shit on Reddit and like say it's crazy stuff on there, but when it's good Reddit is fucking great. When it's helping you out, because you realize like a lot of people have the same questions as you, and
Oh yeah, Reddit's my
give you the
go-to.
answers. I'm gonna be in Tottenham. Like I basically let Tottenham Reddit, plan my whole Sunday. Apparently, it's not a great place.
Yeah, I don't know much about Tottenham except the Spurs, but they should be good this year with Wembanyama. But yeah, no, going back to the point I was making before I was interrupted by Reddit. Like you said, the duality of the two performances. And it's fun when you always split one person into two people. A lot of movies will do it in a way where it's not so obvious in the beginning, and then you realize at the end, oh, these two people are one. But that's with the entire movie. It's very obvious. It's not subtle whatsoever. But I think that offers the actors a chance to bring something new to the story in ways that are so striking and different from each other. Like with Demi Moore, the performance is very vulnerable. This aging actress who is being pushed aside for somebody new, somebody that we don't know, but everybody knows that she's a has-been. According to Hollywood. And that's the Dennis Quaid character, where he is just the embodiment of what Hollywood expects out of their performers, that they should just be young and beautiful forever. And obviously that's an impossibility. So then you bring in the character played by Margaret Qualley, and she's perfection personified. And she's such an interesting performer because she's dynamic and she can play freaky little characters, or she could be someone who you imagine would be America's sweetheart, where she's everything that you would picture as a young up-and-coming star that would take the hearts and minds of audiences all across the world. But it was also a movie that felt like it was stuck in the 80s because the production was so cheesy. It was just the same thing, the same repetitive thing over and over and over again, like a fake world that Demi Moore was put in the middle of. But everything that those three actors were bringing to their characters was hysterical. And then as the movie goes on, Demi Moore gets to have, I think, more fun with the role. And it's a layered performance. And I think it's going to bring a lot of people out to the theaters that know Demi Moore because she's been famous and she's been a star for a long time. And then they're going to see her in a way that they've never seen her before. So overall, even though it isn't very subtle, and I've seen people complaining about that oh, they bring up these ideas, but then they go away from it, or they undercut it with a joke or something that's disgusting, it's performance art. And that's why I had such a fun time with it, because every idea that the director had, everything that she was throwing at us, was just more bizarre than the last.
Yeah, I think the way that it was filmed really added to a lot of that as well. Like you said, the kind of lost in time aspect of like even the idea of a morning workout host on network TV is so 90s. But, with some of the angles and lenses and close-ups, it really did feel like a alternate reality. Like you said, it existed in its own little pocket. And I think it was obviously a purposeful choice by the director to kind of frame it in that way. And
right,
I think
like
it worked.
I kept thinking about the last 30 minutes, but when the movie starts, I mean, the opening scene, that egg did look delicious. But even the conversations between Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid are so literally in your face, where you get every detail of the lunch that he's having. You hear every crunch, and he's just so disgusting and unappealing, and he's sweating, and it feels like he's all over you. It's almost like you're sitting at a table for 2 hours and watching someone go full-blown gluttony nonstop, that the meals just keep getting bigger and more disgusting and more plates, and he's just banging on the table like, bring me another.
But it's not grounded in any type of, like, even the way Sue's rise to fame is basically overnight. And so it's like very heavy with the metaphors and trying to establish a point rather than have a film that makes sense.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's not making itself out to be anything that's incredibly deep or profound.
So that's the thing that got me. Like, I was like, well, does Sue get like a social security? Like, does she have credit cards? Different driver's license? How does this work? But I'm saying like those are the things that they don't really care about, and that's not the point. But it's just fun to think about, like if I was in that situation.
Yeah, no, those are all the questions that TV enjoyers are going to ask. Like, oh, if only this was 10 episodes and we could have got more into Sue, learned about her backstory. Or, yeah, yeah.
What's the lore?
Or, they mentioned that Demi Moore's character won an Oscar for which film? What was that film? Why didn't we get more about that? What does she have any family? Does she have any friends, husbands, children? What the hell?
Yeah, it is fun to think about, like, would you take it? And I feel like if I was like 80, I would. But also, like, didn't they say the drug like picks out your best aspects of your DNA, and that's how it
Right.
creates the perfect you? Like, imagine going through all that and you still ugly. Like, damn. Like, she's lucky she had Margot Qualley genetics in there. Like,
or Demi Moore.
Take genetics. It and you just, or like, oh yeah. I mean, that's ideal. You take the substance, or you figure out that you were actually the perfect.
Imagine LeBron did it
one all along, and that's nice. That's a nice little fun.
LeBron
lesson.
2.0 would be nuts. But that was also fun too, the way that they set it up with the rules. And I guess this will be the territory where we get into spoilers, but that's what was so intriguing to me as the movie played out, because once they set it up that every 7 days you need to switch, that eventually one of the two is going to break that rule. And then what are going to be the repercussions? What are the consequences of going against this mysterious man over the phone who you never see, but he has such authority with his voice, and he's straight to the point when it comes to what you can and cannot do. So when that moment happens, it begins gradually, where Demi Moore's character's, her finger becomes, it's like the one part of her body that ages up until like an elderly form. And even that had me freaking out. That's where the movie really starts to get fucking insane. But also, the back and forth between them, with Margaret Qualley, that this character, 7 days is not going to be enough for her, because she's, like you said, she's become a star overnight. When she started just abusing the spinal fluid, it just made me so anxious.
Because it really does play out like two characters. Like, this character is fucking over another character, but it's the same person. So it's kind of like a conflict while you're watching it. And it's an interesting thing to do, like the idea to play with, like how far would you go? Because I like how they showed her when she was back to Demi Moore after being able to experience what it was like to be Sue, just the toll it took on her mentally and the depression that she faced, like anxious and wanting to be that quote unquote perfect version of her again. And even like, yeah, the first like transformation was, that's the thing, like it doesn't get grotesque until the very end. A lot of the stuff we were shown before then is fucking disgusting. Just her having to stitch her back together, and like she's lucky her bathroom had like a fucking dungeon.
No, if you're living in a studio.
Like I was thinking, like if I did this, yeah, like me, like what would I do with my substance body? Put it in the fucking kitchen?
No, you immediately would have thrown out your old body. You would have broken that rule right away. I think I would have too. I would have been like, all right, see you later. Might be weird for us though, if it's just like a kid. I wonder how that works. Or I guess maybe like 21. It's always 21.
What, like?
As long as you're older than 21. These are the dumb questions that people are going to ask that don't need to be answered.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, like, if you're 15 and you take it, does that just make like you at 8, but you're in your prime? You're just the greatest 8-year-old of all time. You're just the Rizzler.
Yeah, you take it and make the league, but you can only play once every other week. Yeah. This dude's always on the fucking injury report, man.
Just Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Demi Moore's character, having all these things happen to her after the switches, but still not wanting to take her out. She keeps seeing that billboard that's outside of her apartment, and it's like she's haunted by it because she's still addicted to the fame and the attention that this newer, better version of her is receiving. Something that she had earlier in her life, and now she has it again. That's what's interesting, because I kept thinking about plastic surgery, where you make one change and you like it, but you keep going back. It's almost like you become addicted to it, and before you know, you don't even resemble yourself anymore. But in this case, you can still, every other week, enjoy the benefits of being young and being beautiful and being famous. So that's why it makes it so difficult for her to kick this drug and to finally take her out. And that was another thing I was just anticipating the whole movie. I was like, eventually they're going to be conscious at the same time. And when that happens, it's so funny because their immediate reaction, or the younger version's immediate reaction, Sue, is just, I'm going to kill you. So
Yeah.
they begin scrapping. And even though Demi Moore, that first form of I thought that was like going to be the final form of how gross it gets when she's the hunchback older woman. And she was also moving with speed. At times it looked like she was laboring, but then when it was time to run away, all of a sudden she became athletic, which I found to be really funny. But that moment was epic. And to think that it even gets more epic than that is crazy. But just them throwing each other across the room. And I thought it was so funny when Elizabeth drags in the old portrait of herself when she decides to terminate Sue, as if somehow she can go back to looking that way. It was also devastating to see how hot Demi Moore was in that portrait, and then seeing what happened to her. And that's the obvious theme, is the way that older women in Hollywood are treated. We see it all the time, where women in their 50s or 60s, they just don't get the same roles, they don't get the same attention, even though they are still beautiful, which shouldn't matter. It should be more based on their talent, regardless of their age. So yeah, it becomes really sad and unfortunate that someone who is feeling so vulnerable and so desperate for their past glory ends up doing this to themselves. And then from there, it's that caught me by surprise. The idea that Sue was going to begin to fall apart and then inject herself with the drug when the pupil became like 50 pupils.
Yeah.
Incredible. I don't even know how to describe it, dude. All the fucking loose arms and the limbs and the Demi Moore head.
Yeah, when she comes out on stage and everyone's just like, but she's feeling like she's like, yeah, I'm still fucking hot.
But dude, it's so funny throughout, and I'm so happy I was in a theater with people who understood that they were allowed to laugh at this, that you just don't need to be shocked and startled. You can have fun with it, because when she cuts out the face and glues it on her body, that was so dumb. And then she applies makeup. She puts on the earrings. It's like, oh yeah, that will do it. Wherever I think my ears are right now, I'm going to put on these 2 diamond earrings, and I'm going to curl my one hair. All of that shit was just hysterical, man. They're really having fun with it. And that's why I think you can't take it too seriously. You just have to sit back and enjoy the horror show. And the response to the monster was also hysterical.
It's just like, the way they got there and everything that happened before it, and that to be the reveal. And it's just, yeah, it is deeply unsettling and disturbing, but also fun. It's not like gross that like in a way that that turns you off completely and want to look away, even though some people might. But like you said, it's also fun and funny at the same time.
At any point, did you feel bad for when they were all just shouting monster and trying to kill her?
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought maybe you were just pro killing the monster.
I mean, eventually. Can't let that thing be roaming the streets. No. I felt bad, and I felt bad for Demi Moore. Like I was saying before, you kind of viewed Sue and her as different characters, where Sue becomes like the antagonist.
Right.
It's sad that she can't even take what's in front of her. Like when the guy asked her out, I felt bad for him too. He didn't ask for that.
Oh yeah, poor Fred.
But someone who does accept you for how you look and doesn't hold you to these crazy high standards and thinks you're beautiful the way you are, but not being able to kind of realize that and still resort to having to become Sue again.
Yeah, and Quayle, I mean, she's had a really good year. Kinds of Kindness and Drive Away Dolls, and the movie that you mentioned on the pod we did recently. What's that movie?
Sanctuary?
Yeah. I think that's streaming now on Hulu or one of these.
Yeah, it's on one of them, yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I mean, as I said, she's got the ability to play characters who are incredibly quirky and weird, but when she needs to just be your typical leading lady, she's excellent. And as you said, as the movie goes on, she does morph into the antagonist, and you hate her. I hated her. I wanted Demi Moore to kill her. And she's incredibly, alluring to begin with, because they dress her up as this picture perfect doll. But when she starts to reveal that she's going to do whatever it takes to stay as Sue permanently, she becomes a very unlikable character, and a character that you're rooting against. And it's awesome to see an actress like Demi Moore, who is so famous and a legend, get a chance to star in a movie like this. Because once she becomes that older version of herself, like when she's watching Sue on one of those late night talk shows, I thought that was some of the best acting that she did in the movie. When she's making all the food and she keeps yelling at the TV, and to be going that bizarro mode. And that's a credit to the director. I don't know what's going on in France, but somebody needs to investigate it. Between movies like this and Titan and her first movie, Revenge, and movies like Raw, really just seems to be the same two directors.
Well, I mean, even with Titan, like probably a lot of same reactions people are having with this one that received a few years back. Again, the French, like when I was talking about, like with swings and misses, I don't think there's pressure in the same way here it is to have a widely digestible movie. You have the confidence, or you don't really care if you take a swing and people don't like it.
Yeah, it's purposely provocative in ways that you don't always see, even when it comes to horror movies, because we complain about it all the time that a lot of the horror movies that come out of America fall into the same traps, even when they're good. It feels like they always have to check off certain boxes. But a movie like this is operating totally on its own wavelength. It doesn't give a fuck about any movie that's came before it or how people are going to receive it. And that's fun. That's something that cinema needs. You need movies like this every now and then that just hit like a meteorite. It's just impossible to forget when you watch it. You might love it, you might hate it, but you're never going to forget it. And I've seen people on Letterboxd that usually don't take to movies like this, that are so weird and so just unabashedly disgusting, and they just had a lot of fun with it.
It's like I'm on Rotten Tomatoes right now. One review from a critic: substance wields its power not with the precision of a scalpel, but a jackhammer. I feel like that's kind of the point, though, right?
Right. Yeah, that's the other thing, because I've seen a lot of complaints about that, and it would be one thing if the movie was trying to be, this multi-layered exploration of a woman in crisis, but it's not. It is, but it's not. It takes the silly route. It's an attack on the senses, but it's not walking a tightrope. It's moonwalking all over it. It's beatboxing and shit. It's just natural for the tone that the movie initially sets.
I wonder if we'll get any like Oscar.
I think there's definitely a chance for Demi Moore. It's always tough. It feels like Best Actress is always a stat category, and I imagine that's how they would run her.
Could be a year of the comeback with Demi Moore. I mean, people seem to really love Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl.
Yeah, she just won something, right? She just won a Critics Award.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but that's just my opinion. So maybe that's a possibility, but we'll see. Only her 50th birthday, too. How old is Demi Moore in real life? 61. 61, like 30 years ago, was fucking like grandma.
I gotta be honest, dude. I didn't even think she was in her 60s.
Demi Moore, she's been around forever.
I know, but that just did shock me. I was thinking like 55.
I feel like Demi Moore has been famous my whole life.
Yeah, no, she has.
Because even when she was dating Ashton Kutcher, everyone's like, wow, like she's like the age difference. She's so much older than him. I guess she was like 40 then. And he was like 20 whatever, which...
You know why I always think she's younger than she is? Because I always confuse her with Demi Lovato.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Because even, wasn't she in Charlie's Angels?
Yeah, she was.
Well, like, as a
Yeah, she's like, she's not one of the big three, right?
No, but she was like, oh, I used to be an angel.
Right.
In my younger years. Like, she's been like old, like people... I mean, I guess that speaks to like Hollywood and how... what we consider to be older, but like I feel like she's played like the older person, or she's been considered old for like the past 30 years, which is insane. She's still only 61.
Yeah, that does make her the perfect actress for this movie because of the way she's been labeled.
Also in G.I. Jane.
Yeah.
I should make a joke about that at the Oscars.
Bruce Willis just comes up.
G.I. Jane joke, relax. That was wild.
Did you see that quote of David Schwimmer talking about how he turned down Men in Black and it would have made him a movie star?
That's a wild one to turn down.
Well, somebody edited David Schwimmer slapping Chris Rock in an alternate universe. God, thank God he turned that down. We'd have been deprived of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Are you kidding me? Talk about someone who's been old forever.
Tommy Lee?
Tommy Lee Jones has been old for like 40 years, bro. Him and Larry David.
It's crazy because he was probably like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, he was probably like 40 during Men in Black.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones was 51 in Men in Black.
Yeah, you could have told me he was the age he is now, and I would have believed you.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his high school graduation pictures. Absolute stud.
Tommy Lee Jones?
Oh my God. If he took the substance.
Imagine Biden took the substance and came back.
Biden would do that shit immediately, bro. I can't imagine what Biden would look like, though, if the younger version went past 7 days.
Oh, yeah.
That man is 1 minute over 7 days, and the old Biden is toast. No way he's holding up.
I was going to do a young Biden, and I was going to do it like Obama. I'm like, but why would he sound like Obama? Like, listen here, I'm back. Why do you sound like Obama, Joe Biden?
All right, guys, that does it for our review of The Substance. Thank you for listening. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all that fun stuff. If you're listening on YouTube or if on the podcast, just give us 5 stars. Leave us a nice review.
Just to be clear, I took The Substance. That's, of course, young Joe Biden. Thank you.
That's really good, dude. People say that about you, that you do a good young Joe Biden. It's like one of your best impressions. Any more impressions you want to leave us with? You want to do like young Hillary and it sounds like Fran Drescher?
I can't do a good Fran.
You said that so humbly. You respect people who can do a Fran.
I do.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
It is definitely a difficult impression. All right, guys. See ya.